Good evening and welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council. Today is Monday, the 23rd of February 2026. I'll start with an acknowledgement of country. Lithgow City Council acknowledges Wiradjuri elders past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation, the original custodians on the land on which Lithgow community resides. The Council also extends our respects to our neighbouring nations. Declaration of webcasting. I inform all those in attendance at this meeting that the meeting is being webcast and that those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements concerning any person, councillor or employee, and refrain from discussing those matters subject to closed council proceedings as indicated in clause 14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. I'll hand over to Director Browning in regards to council meeting emergency procedures.
In the case of an emergency, please follow the emergency warden's instructions, who will be identified by coloured helmets and fluorescent council vests. Wardens will determine if an evacuation is required and the appropriate exit path. In the event of a fire, do not use the lift. If you require personal assistance in an evacuation, please advise a warden. In the event of an evacuation, no one is to re-enter the building until advised by the Chief Warden.
Thank you. I also note that in accordance with mandatory requirements of the New South Wales Local Government Code of Meeting Practice Clause 1520, members of the public attending a meeting of Council A must remain silent during the meeting unless invited by the chairperson to speak. B must not bring flags, signs or protest symbols to the meeting, and C must not disrupt the meeting. I note that all councillors are present. Is there any declarations of interest?
Mayor, I've got one in relationship to, and I'm sorry, I should have had it open in front of me. Sydney to Central West Corridors, white paper. I'll be staying in the room, I'll be speaking to it. I'm just declaring that I am a member or an employee of Blue Mountain City Council, but I won't be speaking on behalf of the council or their communities in regard to issues on the Bells Liner Road and Great Western Highway. I'll just keep my response to the matters in the white paper.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Is there any further? No? Okay. Confirmation of minutes. We've got can I have someone move the ordinary meeting of council held on the 28th of January? Can I have someone move those, please?
Yeah, I'll move that way.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ring, thank you. Is there any opposition? I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. I have a mayoral minute here. Wild Food Festival, thanks and compliments. The Seven Valley Wild Food Festival debuted on the 21st of February 2026. Lithgow hosted an exciting new celebration of food and culture, with Main Street transformed into a foodie paradise. The feedback I have received has been overwhelmingly positive. The common theme was that they would like this event to return next year, as it was great theme and well organised. Thankfully, we have secured funding for a further 2 years. What I noticed was that Main Street was very busy. That was clear due to the queues at the food trucks and stores. It was lovely to see large family groups coming together to enjoy the wonderful display of authentic and artisans markets, also sitting together enjoying a meal at the long table. Locals catching up with each other who hadn't seen each other for a while. It was a very vibrant atmosphere. The garden bar with local entertainment was definitely a hit for most, including myself. Let's ensure another successful event next year, building on what certainly worked well and those aspects that can be refined. I would like to sincerely thank all the staff involved with delivering Saturday's Wild Food Festival, especially dealing with the storm and heavy rain just before the start. As we see consistently in our community, everyone pulled together to reset after this storm, drenching, to ensure that the event was a success. The recommendation is that the council acknowledges and thanks Lithgow City Council staff involved with delivering Saturday's Wild Food Festival and those who contributed behind the scenes leading up to the event. Any debate, councillors? Councillor Marnie?
Thank you, Mayor. I just reiterate what you've said. I won't repeat, and I thank you for taking the time to compliment everyone on what's happened. I was seeing it from a slightly different perspective. I was on a stall on the night. Can I congratulate the staff and the way they managed the startup and all the interplay with traffic? I thought that went really well. And also just to acknowledge the staff that were there well after 10 o'clock at night cleaning up after a big event. Also attended the talks in the Union Theatre, which I thought was a really nice adjunct to the festival. And I just wanted to acknowledge Diego Bonetto and Marnie Fox for their work. They'd obviously drawn on their experience in this area and brought speakers from the Bindor Coast. And it was interesting, a lot of people from out of area. The largest purchase of veggie seedlings actually came from a person from Emu Heights on the Nepean River who's got a very large vegetable garden and saw it on social media. So the reach got there, and I thoroughly enjoyed the night, and I concur with how you've represented it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further commentary?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd just like to put a special call out to the staff that were cleaning in the night. They do a critical and a vital job, and they're just as important as the people who are at the top organising. And I think they deserve some credit. It was a good event.
Absolutely. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. I've got items here to be moved by exception. I've got 2.1, 2.2, 2.6 and 3.3. Is there any objections to those, councillors? And I'll need a mover. Councillor Ring, you happy to move those?
Yes, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Goodwin, you happy to second? Do I have any opposition to those 4 items? No? Put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. That's the case. We move on to 2.3. I have a recommendation in front of me, councillors, for 2.3. Do I have any?
I'd like to move an amendment, if I may, Mayor.
Yeah, what would you like to move?
To retain point 1, delete point 4, and then to insert 2 additional points. Point 2, the council supports in principle co-contribution of $100,000 within the existing Transitions Management SRV reserve, subject to the application being successful. Point 3, note that the execution of any successful grant application by council officers will not proceed until the successful outcomes are reported to council and council's endorsement to proceed with the grants is obtained.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Is there a seconder? Councillor Marnie, you happy to second that? Councillor Ring?
What I propose is consistent with what we've done with grants previously. Yeah, dollar for dollar grants in previous councils have caused significant financial stress, and there was a move away from them to be very cautious. Co-contributions may not appear as bad on the surface, but if you put in too many grants and you're committing too much money without having a good direction, then it could lead us into a difficult path. Now, I'm aware that the Director of Finance and Governance has previously committed to a grants policy strategy, and I appreciate that due to staff constraints she hasn't been able to do it. Given the importance of grants to our council, acknowledging potential risks, it is time to consider that whether or not we allocate financial resources from the Transition Management SRV reserves to allow that report to be done. We need to establish what our clear priorities are in going for grants. We need to understand what our risk appetite is and our financial appetite is. If 7 or 8 grants come in and we've committed $100,000 to each grant, do we have capacity to pay? Are the grants that are being proposed consistent where we want to go as a council? I think it's really important that we have a clear direction moving forward. And I know that grants do come up ad hoc at times, but we need to have a clear set of priorities moving forward where we want to direct our resources. I think it's critical for good governance. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Marnie?
While I'm very supportive of the application, and there's no however or but coming, I understand what Councillor Ring is trying to do, which is making sure we map out our co-contributions as they come forward with grants, that we don't exceed our ability to meet those. So I'm comfortable with the supporting principle. Very happy to hear the will of the council. They will make the decision on whether to support this or not, which I hope they will. 10-to-1 returns in ratio on grants is rarely found, so it's a significant amount of money to be brought in front of us for a relatively small buy-in for the outcomes. So I understand the principle, but I'm hoping that it is something that we'll support as a council.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Before I let you speak, Councillor Goodwin, I'm just going to let you know I have a matter arising from this matter. But Councillor Goodwin?
Thank you, Matt. I'm also supportive of this application. I've been advocating for lighting in Main Street since day one that I've got on council. Although it's at a different part, I think if we advocate for this grant stream and get lighting in the Main Street, it will just hopefully roll on to the lighting that I've been advocating as well for. So it'd be a great transition.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Any further commentary on this matter? No? All right, I'll put the would you like right reply, Councillor Ring?
No, there's no opposition, so just
Yep.
put.
You're happy
please.
for me to put it? No worries. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. I do have a matter arising. I wanted to raise that currently there's applications opened for round 22 of the Festivals Australia program in regards to projects and community events in regional and remote Australia. And I think it's important that we look at endorsing a submission to that particular grant as well. I think that it's really important that if grants come up, and they do come up on hot basis now and then, I was able to stumble upon this. So I think it's really important that we endorse a submission to the application in regards to the Festivals Australia program, so that we can have a look at an opportunity for art projects and community events. And it is liable for here in Lithgow, in the Lithgow local government area. So I would like to move that we endorse a submission of an application to the rounds 22 of the Festival Australia program, which is currently open for arts and project and community events in regional and remote Australia.
Is this a separate motion?
Yeah, it's a matter arising. I've raised. I just need a seconder. Tommy, you're happy? Oh, Councillor Evangelidis, you're happy to second that? Thank you. So, as I said, grants come up hop, and I think if we have an opportunity to put in for a grant, then we should go ahead with it. I mean, we don't have to follow through, but at least we need to actually apply for grants when they come up. That's all I would like to say on the matter. Councillor Evangelidis, would you like to speak?
Yes, we should apply for grants.
Great, thank you. Do you have any opposition to this?
Not opposition, but I've got a question.
Sure.
When does the application close, and is there a co-contribution?
I'll have to take. Yeah.
Through you, Mayor, I'm just having a quick look now. The application period closes on the 17th of March.
Question for you, Mayor, to administration. Do they have the capacity to prepare an application within the time?
I think I'll let Director Elwood answer that, because he was looking at it just earlier. If you'd like to step in.
Through yourself, Mayor. Yes, we're still working through the full eligibility requirements. Lithgow is eligible as this is a federal grant, and we're a recognised region, not a metropolitan area. The intent would be to refer to define exactly what we'd be proposing, put that through, and potentially bring that back to the events working group in 2 weeks' time for the initial discussion.
No, thank you. I'm happy to support it.
If there's no further commentary, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. Thank you. We'll move on. 2.7, it's the Q2 budget review. I have a recommendation in front of me, councillors. Is there anybody who would like to move the recommendation or something
Yeah, I'm
else?
happy to move that.
You're happy to
Yeah.
move that, Councillor Marnie? Are you moving the recommendation in front of me? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Ring. Thank you. Councillor Marnie, would you like to speak to that, please?
I would. Just noting on the second paragraph on page 15, so at the front page of this report, just that the Director of Finance and Governance as a responsible accounting officer has reviewed the report and advises that the Council's projected financial position at 30 June 2025 will be satisfactory compared with the original budget. Also, just wanted to, from the bottom paragraph, also note that the Council's projected position at the 30th of June is slightly improved from an operating result before capital of 1.5 after adoption of the September quarterly review and expected $1.6 billion surplus. Just noting also that the reduction of $5 million worth of natural disaster funding work, mostly related to slope restoration, with works being deferred, has impacted on the operating result. Noting that interest earned on the investments has been reduced by $760,000 as cash available for investment has been lower than forecasted when developing the original budget due to the timing of grant projects and delay in significant mining rates payments. Noting that there are some changes to that situation. Now, the report then goes on to talk to aligning cash inflow with cash outflows and looking at suspending or deferring projects. Now, I've raised this matter in the Finance Committee and I raise it here in public. I think the Council needs to develop a risk matrix for assessing which projects should sit out or be deferred and which ones should remain online. I understand the need for the financial discipline at the moment, and I'm not challenging the staff on their decision, but I do make a point that both the Enfield Avenue intersection stormwater project and the Great Western Highway stormwater project both carry with them considerable risks to private land. And I personally want to make a very clear statement about the Enfield Avenue. I think one of the risk amplifications is the reinstatement of Transport for New South Wales rail corridor exclusion fence, which I don't believe is the standard, and the actual patchwork has created a situation where floating debris can catch in the bottom of that, increasing the flood level potentially back into the still shop and the adjoining properties. Rainfall, whilst it may be predicted to be low, the risk is generated by rainfall intensity. And anyone that was setting up a stall at around 6 o'clock on Main Street found that they were in half a foot of water in a hurry, and people's possessions were flowing down the street. So I would ask the Mayor, and I know the Mayor will look for issues to take forward on behalf of the Council, that when discussing with Transport for New South Wales, it is unacceptable to leave the fence in its current configuration. And I, as a councillor, accept no risk from any amplification of the impact of floodwaters by having a not fit for purpose barrier fence on that location. But I understand where the Director, understanding her responsibilities in reducing our cash flow issues, has deferred these projects. Completion of these works will perhaps buy us some time and minimise some of the impacts of overland flows in that location.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. I need to go to Councillor Ring, who seconded it, then I'll come to you, Councillor Smith.
First, I have two questions for you, Mayor Coleman, through to the administration. The first is, has administration advised OLG of our current financial position, and are they seeking advice and working with them? And the second is directly to the Director of Finance and Governance. Has sufficient action been taken that budget estimates can be achieved as stated in the report?
Director Browning.
Through you, Mayor Coleman. Yes, there's a meeting scheduled with the OLG on the 3rd of March 2026, where they will discuss with us what the situation is and then provide advice and any outcomes that come from that meeting, which obviously will be advised to councillors subsequent to that meeting. In terms of the budget estimates achieving, at this stage of the year and based on the information currently known, I do believe we've taken sufficient action. The situation can change and can change rapidly, and it will be continued to be monitored, and any further adjustments required will either come through the March quarterly review or the Finance Committee.
Thank you. I appreciate Councillor Marnie's concerns with Enfield Avenue and the Great Western Highway. Although I do understand why, because we discussed this at the Finance Committee. These projects haven't started yet. A number of other projects, which may or may not have been able to be deferred, have already commenced. A difficult position for the administration in the current climate is what do you cut, what do you defer? And if something hasn't started, then it makes sense. I understand the risk to private property, but these issues have been there for a number of years. It doesn't justify them continuing to be there. But what do we cut? What do we defer? We defer one problem, there's another issue. So I think hard decisions have been made, and I support the administration of this in the way they're handling this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Smith and Councillor Fredericks. Were you putting your hand up? Yeah, Councillor. Yeah,
In
Councillor
support
Smith.
of the, to Eric, Councillor Marnie and Councillor Ring, I do agree with what they're saying. It's hard on the council to sort of defer, but we do remember this one here on the highway, I assume was tied up with the Claret Ash estate. Now, that was a fairly confronting issue on two aspects. One was because of the stormwater, and the other one was because of traffic plans and whatever. Now, I don't know what's happening there, whether that's been continued on with, but they're the two main issues that could have held that up. Where does that go with that estate now? Is that going to be allowed to advance on, or we've got to commit ourselves to make sure this is done? Or where's it going to be? Because I dare say a few of them out there will be asking questions.
Councillor Smith, we might get some answers for you if you like, and then I'll come to Councillor Frederick and that. Mr. Elwood or Mr. Edgecombe, who's taking that for me? Great, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Coleman, this is a tricky one to answer, but the council were initially concerned that the subdivision would result in additional stormwater making its way down toward the highway. The works have been the works that the developer committed to have been completed. There's new pipework running from the subdivision down toward the highway, but council's infrastructure won't be upgraded from that point on. So during peak flood events, rainfall events, once those roads and other impervious infrastructure goes in, it's likely that there might be some increased flooding at the bottom of the hill. But I would predict that by the time that happens and that area starts getting built back out, our cash flow problems would have resolved and that we can commence and continue with our work. So I just want to make the point, I guess, that it's simply a deferral. It's not cancellation of this work. We're just moving it to some point in the future, hopefully soon.
Councillor Fredericks.
All right, the following questions are through you, Mayor, to Ms Browning, and I will say it's just for complete transparency so the community has one spot they can go to without a paywall. Where are we currently in the process of recovering the almost $4 million in unpaid rates owned by one sector?
Director Browning.
Through you, Mayor Coleman, the first two instalments have been paid.
So how much is left remaining? Roughly.
2.4 million.
All right. How many meetings have taken place in the past 6 weeks between council administration and the company in question?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, 1 meeting.
To what extent were the contents and outcomes of those meetings communicated to councillors?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, there was a report to the Finance Committee on the outcomes, and can't recall if there was an email sent separately as well, but it was certainly tabled at the Finance Committee meeting.
It was an email sent to Councillor Fredericks and it was reported at the Finance Committee.
The next one, I've been filtering calls all weekend due to this particular one, haven't been able to answer it. Is it correct that a meeting occurred between council administration and the company in which a proposal for an alteration to their rates was put on the table? This has been reported by their unions to their workers, that they would agree to $2 million in rates and would spend the other possible $2 million being put back into the local community and infrastructure.
I'll let the General Manager respond to that.
Through you, Mayor. I can verify that one of the ratepayer affected did present to councillors. However, the content of that presentation was confidential. And I'll just confirm too that the rates have been brought up to date to the end of this month, which is the instalment date. So there's nothing overdue at the moment.
Thank you, that's all.
Councillor Tysus?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions as well. I just wanted to know how much is left of the DRFA funding from that large funding that we got. How much have we got left restricted for DRFA funding still to be used?
Director Browning?
Through you, Mayor Council, it's approximately $24.5 million.
And can I ask the second question is how long is there a due date that this has to be spent by? I wouldn't think that we've been caught out by not having it spent by a due date. Is there a due date that we had to have it spent within the first 2 years, 3 years, or what is that period?
Director Browning, can you answer that? Or?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, great.
So the 30th of June 2027 is when the DRFA program funding needs to be spent. It is likely that the Walgan Road will be extended past that because of the scale and complexity of that project.
How much of that $24 million is the Walgan compared to what the other projects are?
I'd have to take the exact figures on notice, but the majority of it will be related to Walgan.
Thank you. So there's not that much left to be done with the other roads of DRFA funding?
The prepayment was a proportion of the roads, so there's still significant delivery required. It would be in the order of $15 million, excluding the land slips.
Thank you. And what is our contribution part? Do we have the money to provide our percentage portion of the available to match the grant before the end of the 30th of June 27?
There's no set council proportion. So what we've identified is to make the roadworks sensible and more resilient, that there was funding that we were contributing towards the roads that were impacted by flooding. So it's not so much that we had a requirement to spend money before the 30th of June 2027.
And the last one is, where are we up to with back in December we had a motion before us from memory in regards to loan borrowings of up to $20 million for roadworks. Where are we with that?
At this stage, given our cash situation, it's not progressing at this stage.
Thank you, Councillor Tysus and Director Browning. Councillor Statham?
Yes, Mayor Coleman. Just some information. Has there been where it says, that the cash flows to reduce the risk of the council's exceeding its internal reserve funds, the following projects have been deferred, including. So have those people been informed in their groups in their own little towns what has been taken out of the budget, and will those go into the next budget?
Director Browning, can you please answer that?
Through you, Mayor Coleman. So the stakeholders that were the main for the projects that we're mostly contributing to have been informed, and it's certainly a consideration to put on for next year's budget. Or even the March quarterly review if our cash situation's improved.
Right, thank you.
Is there any further questions? Just from me, because it was raised, and it was raised by Councillor Martin in regards to Enfield Avenue and New South Wales Transport. If Director Edgewood, if you'd like to just go over what's actually occurred in that space, because you were doing some work on that last week.
Through you, Mayor Coleman, I'm a bit disappointed, but I've still got to keep doing work on this one. We have made representations to the New South Wales, to Transport for New South Wales and the Sydney Trains division, maintenance division, to seek replacement of that fence. To their credit, they've come back to us and said they're going to do some work to remove the significant overgrowth, weed infestation, and some other debris in the canal. But they've confirmed that they will not be replacing the fence with a more suitable solution. So we don't accept that response. We will be pushing it further, and I'm looking forward to working with the Mayor on that.
We've already sent a letter to the Minister, Councillor Marnie. We did that the other day. And I actually rang the Minister's office to find out where the letter was. They confirmed that they hadn't received it because the email address wasn't probably the best email address. So I was able to get a direct email and send it directly to his office, so it's currently being reviewed. If there's no further discussion in regards to this, I'll come back to Councillor Marnie. You have right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. As always, I'll put some trust in the staff and the leadership team to follow that issue up. As Director Edgecombe said, it's not acceptable. The fence has been modified, which has increased the risk. So Transport for New South Wales needs to be cognisant of the risk they're carrying through their actions. Just one last comment. Just noticing also some of the strategies. Salary savings is used in local government a lot to help manage budgets. I just asked them, given the director's role, Vanessa Browning, looking after HR as well as finance, which are two very substantial portfolios, I'm sure you'll be conscious of the impacts that has on staff with vacancies running for extended periods.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. I stated earlier that we were at 2.7. Actually, that was incorrect. We actually just debated 2.4. So we'll go to 2.5, which is tender evaluations, pavement rehabilitations and sealing at Browns Gap Road. Councillors, do I have any motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move on the amendment if I may.
Yep. What would you like to move, Councillor?
Renumber point 3 to 4 and to include a new point 3. Point 3 is that prior to signing the tender document, the Director for Finance and Governance and Director Infrastructure and Project Delivery organise for key personnel to meet with the recommended tenderer to ensure their financial and operational capacity to complete the works.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Is there a seconder for this?
Sorry,
Councillor Frederick's going to second it. Fabulous. Okay. Councillor Ring.
We have an increased work program compared to previous years. We have local businesses competing and getting work, which is good. This is not a reflection of performance. I'm more than satisfied with the integrity of the tender process. This is about ensuring that we do not overload local businesses and send them bankrupt. That's my concern. And I think moving forward, we need to ensure that any business tendering with us has got the capacity to do the work. I've found in the past where some businesses overextend, take a lot of contracts, they'll drop the smaller one and go for a bigger one. I want to see that not happen. So I'd like at the early stage before signing that the staff and the company are convinced that they've got financial and operational capacity to deliver. That's all the amendment's about.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Fredericks.
But we all know that life happens and sometimes things fall through. But the situation that we're in financially, the way the country's in financially, we have to make sure as many I's are dotted and as many T's are crossed as possible. And we have to make sure that these projects are being delivered when they need to be delivered with very little interruption. Otherwise, it's just going to be a constant game of chase a mouse, and it's not something that we can continue doing.
Thank you, Councillor Frederick. Is there any further debate on this matter?
Yes,
Councillor
Mayor.
Smith and then Councillor Money.
I'm probably just a bit confused here with this report. Was this funded totally by New South Wales, the disaster recovery funding arrangements? I thought it was, but when you read this here, they've only funded, 495, is that correct?
Director Edgecombe.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. That's correct. All of these projects started with an initial bid for funding, I guess, and they were slowly whittled down due to a combination of what was the state considered ineligible works and other. So yes, the DRFA funding component is only 500, but as was mentioned by Director Browning a moment ago, it makes no sense for us to deliver part of a project. We made that mistake on Glen Davis Road. We learned from that. We won't do it again. So we've scoped, tested and designed the remaining scope so that we deliver a full product to the community, and that's the remaining $1.87 million that's included there of council funding. So it's a contributory amount. They'll both be delivered together.
Just one other question. It doesn't really, it goes through the tendering process. Is there confidentiality there who actually got the tender?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, initially, yes, whilst the council debate it, but at the end of the contract, it becomes public knowledge. Sorry, once the council has made their decision, it becomes public.
Councillor Money.
Obviously, with this road linking the Vale of Clewett into Hartley and obviously then into the Blue Mountains, it's very pleasing to see a timetable and a tender going out. So thanks for that. It's been a significant impact for people in the Hartley. Coming into town is fine, but you then have to drive around the highway or up the Belzina Road to go home. And for people commuting into the eastern areas, it adds significant travel time each week. So I'm very pleased to see it there, separating my own personal benefit out of that. But I also continue to recognise bringing people like Cameron Shield into a tender panel and continuing to build that capacity and not dependency on external consultants, and also having Director Browning also on there to give that probity advice. I think we're really strengthening the process and supporting junior staff there. So I'm just very pleased to see that it's about to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Money. You mentioned something about the slope. I think Director Edgecombe wanted to correct some commentary there or make a statement.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. Just to confirm, this work is for the road and its pavement only. It doesn't directly address the slope stability issues on Browns Gap at all. So this work won't see this current one-way scenario that's in place reversed to become two-way. However, that work is progressing. It is on track for delivery by the end of the calendar year.
I just thought it'd be best to get that clarified for you.
Thank you, Mayor. That's
good. Councillor Tasso.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on that last question, so can I get an open date of when you expect the traffic to be both travelling both ways with the road open?
Director Edgecombe.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. All things going to plan, and slope stability projects, there's always a good risk that things won't go to plan, but all things going to plan, we aim to have it open by the end of December, so this calendar year.
Thank you. And could I get you mentioned from 2.9 Ks to 5.69, 672 to 865.65. Can I get an idea where that is? Because Browns Gap Road, as you appreciate, is a long road. Is it before the works or after the works? Or could you sort of give some identifying marks as to where that is being done?
Director Edgecombe.
So those chainage markers are measured from Lithgow end progressing out. So it's after you go through Brown's Gap, when you hit that cutting at the very base, and through past. I'll get what I can do. I'll take it on notice, and I'll get a map to councillors in the next week.
Thank you. Is there some work before the cut-off now, before the cutting? 2.9, or is it?
No, I believe the work's all after the
It's
cutting.
all at the bottom of the gap. Thank you. The other question I have is, given the recommendation that's before us tonight, if it doesn't work out that point 3 doesn't work out, what's the fallback position for this tender?
Director Edgecombe.
We'll need to negotiate that with the contractor. If there's any issues regarding financial capacity, I expect that given the scope of this work, the tenderer will want to accept this over any other. But if there's any impacts, we'll need to negotiate with them a course of delivery and report back to the council.
Thank you.
In other words, it can't be, the fallback position cannot go directly to one of the other 3 tenderers. It must come back as another separate tender.
I expect that it's hard to predict, but I expect that the successful tenderer, this is one of council's most expensive projects this year. I expect that the tenderer will want to accept this one. There might be impacts to other projects. If that happens, we'll report back through either the infrastructure committee or to an open meeting of council.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. Is there any further debate? If not, I'll give Councillor Ring's right of reply.
I'd just like to say I do agree with Councillor Tyson. We do need to know what a fallback position, but moving forward, I think this should become standard operating practice so that we're sure that we're going to be able to get them to deliver. I also think in future, if you could, Director Edgecombe, if you don't mind, Mayor, that you do include a map showing where the works, if you can, without too much trouble, because having a description of change really doesn't help us in understanding what's being done. So just a basic map that just shows where the key work is would be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move on to 2.7. Supply and delivery of... Oh, no, we've done that. Sorry. 2.7, draft uninformed, unmaintained roads policy.
Can I move a recommendation there with 1 and 2? And I have a number 3 to go with it.
Sure.
And that is that it reads that number 3, the current issue of 35 Honeysuckle Falls Road, Taranah, is not included in this draft unformed and unmaintained roads policy.
So you're excluding that road.
I'm excluding that current issue to be separate to any policy that we may put out in the future.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that? You're happy to second that? So you're excluding Honeysuckle Road, yep. Are you all right? Councillor Fredericks?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Marnie has seconded that for you. Councillor Tyson, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'm quite happy with the policy as it goes out, but this the 35 Honeysuckle Road Falls issue was the start of getting a policy out, and so therefore, to be fair to the council, Crown Lands, and the property owners, I don't think it should be included because the policy has arisen out of their issue. So that's the reason for that I think it should be excluded. It should be that needs to be sorted separately to this policy, and somewhere down the track, I'm hopeful that we'll come up with a resolution through the state government, ourselves, and the property owners that will benefit all parties to the process. But it's the fact that it came out of this policy was developed because of this, then I don't believe it should be included, and so that's the reason for the recommendation.
No problem. Councillor Marnie?
Thank you, Mayor. I think as councillors, it's important that when we come to meetings, we have an open mind to what goes on in the debate. And Councillor Tyson has brought forward an important issue which I think we need to consider, which is retrospective application of policy is problematic in what I'm listening to. It wasn't a position I'd arrived at prior to the meeting reviewing the report, but it is something we need to have a think about. It may well be that many of the principles in the policy will influence the individual decision of the council, but I'm not sure, and I'm happy to take advice on this, and I've seconded it, so there's an opportunity to have this discussion, whether change policies can be applied retrospectively to an existing situation. So I just think Councillor Tysus has raised a legitimate issue that needs to be considered in that.
You've raised some number of questions, Councillor Money. Would you like Director Edgecombe to answer those?
Sorry, I'll narrow it down and may go to the General Manager just on where do we sit with retrospective application of policy?
Mr. General Manager, are you answering that? Great.
Through you, Mayor. It's a good question. It's not a question that we've really considered before. This is a different case, but certainly any policy council can determine to work outside of that in any circumstance because it's not a legislative requirement. For example, in this case, it's simply setting rules for the administration to work by and for council to work within, and that helps us work out a way forward. So there's certainly, I guess, to answer your question, there is no issue with the point that Councillor Tysus has added.
Okay, thank you. I'm convinced the council administration will look at all the principles that have been discussed in order to tailor a response to the landholders in Honeysuckle Falls Road. So it's just I think it's a point well made by Councillor Tysus, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Any further debate on this matter? Councillor Goodwin?
Is there somewhere in that policy that says that if council need to decide on something outside of the policy, that they can do that rather than the default going back to policy to the people? Is that we're just going to go by what the policy says? Do we need something in the policy to say that we can default?
General Manager, would you like to answer that?
Through you, Mayor. Usually if something came to the administration that fell outside of the provisions of a policy, that would automatically go, we'd put that to council in a report.
Councillor Goodwin, councillors always have the option of, notice of motions and questions on notice. The policy is only a default position for the administration. It's a bit like when legislation is created, then a policy is created in regards to a legislation. A policy doesn't actually default legislation. And same with a policy, you would never default a councillor's right to bring a notice of motion forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot of the times when I speak to people out in the street, they talk to me about either their DAs or something that they're doing with council, and council say, listen, it's not the policy, and that's as far as it goes. Now, is it something that if someone says that I need to bring a notice of motion to council, or is it what the General Manager says that they're going to bring it straight back to council and let us decide if someone from the public?
Councillors always have the right of a notice of motion. You haven't, yeah.
I understand that, but sorry, pardon me, through you.
No,
the
that's
General Manager.
General Manager, can you? Yeah.
Basically said that if it falls outside the policy, they would bring it to council. So is it up to you guys to bring it to council, or is it up to us to bring it to council?
Sorry, I probably should have clarified that, because it does depend if a matter is brought to the administration, and we'll work that way. Sometimes it may go straight to a councillor if, for example, a resident has been told by council staff that this falls outside the policy, so we'll act in this way. An example is the undetected leaks policy, where from time to time a councillor may put forward a notice of motion to go outside that policy and give a different rebate than what would apply under the policy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Councillor Ring.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with an exclusion. I do have a question for you to the administration. How many unformed roads currently have residences on them?
Director Edgecombe.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. I'll answer it a slightly different way. There's about 642 properties in the Lithgow LGA. I don't know whether they've all got residents on them, but 642 properties that require access off of a Crown Road. So it's a significant number.
Thank you. So you could take the same argument and say that applies retrospectively to all those roads. I think the policy should go out as it's been written. I don't think there should be an exception. I think the matter of 135 Honeysuckle Road can be brought back to council. I'm not going to support the resolution as it is. If it doesn't get up, then I'll move the matter arising. I think we should put it out to the public. We can talk about it when it comes back.
Are you foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing, yeah. I think we need to put it out. Matters can be dealt with individually. Policy is a statement of intent. It's not legislation. It's not legislated. It's pretty much like the Development Control Plan. It's a statement of intent. It's not legislated. Policies can be changed. And if I may, with respect to the questions that Councillor Goodwin's been asked, particularly if it's relating to planning, I'd be giving Director Elwood a call first and trying to find out what the issue is. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes staff misinterpret things, sometimes it's the public not being happy because they just can't get their own way. But yeah, I'm not going to support this. I think we should put it out as a blanket document. If this particular issue wants to be brought back, let it be brought back. In terms of this problem, we can create it. State government did. Now, my understanding from talking to Mr. Edgecombe is looking about $200,000 for this road. What do we cut? That's not good financial management. That's not responsible financial management. What are we going to cut? I'd like to know why these residents can't get access through the neighbour's property, which they had for years. What's the reason? I don't know if you can discuss that in open council, but that does concern me. I think this policy should go as it is, and we should see what comment comes back.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Any further commentary? I'll write a reply, Councillor Tyson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's up to the councils, given the history of the address at Taranah, that we should provide that family with procedural fairness. And that procedural fairness is you are not going to be covered by a policy that has arisen because of your issue. That issue is the only reason we have this policy on there. It's a draft policy. I thought Mr. Gurney's reply in respect to the water rates was exactly right. We have a policy and we exclude, or we come back with a notice of motion, or the staff have said we've complied with policy, council's overridden policy. Councils do it all the time. But this is not procedural fairness to this group, this family, this couple, in regards to their issue. Their issue is completely separate. We've developed a policy for anything in the future. We should have probably had one in the first place, but we didn't. We didn't need one. Now we need one because of this issue arose, but to then advertise it, come back, publish it, approve it, and then put them in the mix, and then we consider it. We may consider some of those things, but we shouldn't they need to be exempt, in my opinion, from procedural fairness, because this policy was born out of their particular issue. Don't blame us, don't blame them. We can blame the Crown Lands in regards to what's happened, but we need to fix it, but it needs to be fixed outside of this draft policy because they don't need to be included. Otherwise, it can be seen that we have developed a policy to specifically exclude them. That's not a good look for this council, because that's exactly the way it's looking at the moment if we don't pass this motion to exclude them today. In my opinion, we need to provide them with procedural fairness. I'd be doing that for anyone in the community where this issue arose, and then we had to develop a policy out of it, and then we exclude them by virtue of that policy. we need to sort their issue out, but not under this particular policy. It may be within the guidelines of the policy, but it won't be because of the policy. Thank you.
I'll put that motion to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We move on. We're up to 2.8, Sydney to Central West Corridors White Paper. I have a motion in front of me, or recommendation, sorry, councillors in front of me. What is the will of the council?
I move a recommendation with an amendment, if I may, a slight amendment.
What would you like to move, Councillor Tyson?
That council note the approach suggested. I'm not prepared to endorse it.
No, sorry, did you say note? No. Okay, thank you. I'm happy to second this, actually. Councillor Tyson, I've seconded it for you.
Thank you. I'm right to go then.
Yes, off you go.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for that seconder. Look, paper after paper after paper, white paper, green paper, brown paper, who knows? I mean, this is just a complete, absolute nonsense 12 months out from a state election. Promises again, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. I note that on the, I had a look earlier to find out where the motion was, but the council has on its books a motion to support the Bells Line Expressway from memory. I'm unable to find the actual motion, but and I'll tell you what also got my back up this week and the last week. I mean, 12 months out from election, they announced $90 billion for fast rail from Sydney to Newcastle. Now, how many times have we heard that before? Now, it's always been the case that, we can't do the Bells Line Expressway because we haven't got the money. We didn't do the tunnels because we didn't do the money. That was $10 billion. And all of a sudden now we've got $90 billion from the Labor federal government and the Labor state government telling us they're going to do from Sydney to Newcastle. Well, hang on. You've got nearly a 3 or 4 lane freeway from all that way up. We have the minister coming out not long back saying you can go from, in 2 years' time, you'll go from Victoria, border of Albury, to Queensland without one set of traffic lights. We've got to get to Lapson Hill, Glenbrook, and we've got 29 sets of traffic lights, including a new one at Medlar Bath. 29 sets of traffic lights. It's absolutely bizarre. We should have done this Bells Line Expressway when a fellow from out west was doing it. His name escapes me at the moment. Back in 25 years ago, a National Party fellow from memory. And we had the chance to do it then. It went through a big committee through Sydney. But if you can find $90 billion to secure the votes up on the between Sydney and Newcastle for Labor seats, to me, you can put it in over the mountains. The West will never get ahead while ever we don't have a freeway over the mountains. There's no reason why we can't do it. Some of the reserves on the Bells Line have been reserved. We should be able to go from here all the way down to the M7, up and down north and south. But, you can't go east. You can't build another tunnel in Sydney, for goodness sakes. How many more tunnels can you get in Sydney? We need I need to note this. I'm not going to endorse anything where you're not going to do anything for the Bells Line Freeway across the Blue Mountains. And what's the next thing? 30 sets of traffic lights? They're looking at putting heavy vehicles where you can unhitch them at the bottom of Mount Victoria Pass and then couple them back up when you get up to Blackheath. I mean, goodness sakes, the whole thing's just pie in the sky stuff. We've got a motion that it's the Bells Line Expressway, and I think we need to stick with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarsus. The motion that you referred to was actually at the February meeting, and I actually seconded it because I fully support a Bells Line Expressway across the Blue Mountains, especially when we've got an airport coming online very shortly. As for the tunnel, well, if they're going to do a tunnel, they need to do it under Mount Vic and up through to Katoomba. I'm not going to see residents in Hartley's lives ripped apart again in the not so distant future. So yeah, in regards to the tunnel, Mount Vic, West Katoomba, we need to clear up and look at the bottleneck at Medlow Bath and Blackheath. That has to be cleared up first before there's any talk of any other tunnel again. And let's be honest, if they do a tunnel, it's likely to be tolled. So that would also add to the cost of living for our residents and anybody else. As for rail, I mean, we need to be focusing on rail. We need to be a multi-modal transport hub. We should be an interchange for both passenger and freight. They need to focus on rail. If we can get people on the trains, then we can get them off the roads. And that's also about safety. And you're right, there is an election coming up, but unfortunately we sit in a seat that is not targeted and is not marginal. And while that is the case, then the money will go where it's meant to go. And that's with targeted and marginal seats, unfortunately. Any further debate?
I understand the frustration from both yourself and Councillor Ticehurst. I'm on record as not supporting the Bells Line Expressway. I still don't see it happening because the corridor's gone down in Hawkesbury. But we put a lot of emphasis on roads. The road work was done at Medlow Bath and at Hartley was a waste of money. Without the tunnel there, it is a complete waste. Even with the tunnel, it's only saving 20 minutes. They're talking about bringing B doubles up. Bring up the Mount Vic, drop one off, and then run it out to Marangaroo or something and hook them up. I'm sorry, it's time to stop talking about continually using the road for hauling freight. The only major upgrade to our rail system since 1950 was electrification and then more recently the new trains. That's it. $90 billion on a fast train from Newcastle to Sydney. I'm sorry, you've got to be joking. They've already got a good rail service. We need a better rail service that will increase freight. We need to have a rail service that bypasses the 10 tunnels that will take freight out to Wallerawang, Green Spot. There's rail spurs out there. We need to get the trucks off the mountains. There is money committed in the current budgets. I think it was $100 million for upgrades on the Bells Line. A little bit short of $90 billion, but I'll take $100 million over nothing. But I think we need to focus on rail. I believe, and I've said this before as well, that the Bathurst Bullet should be an inner-city train from Lithgow to Orange, with Lithgow being the interchange, with more frequent trains that allow residents from Lithgow to actually go to Orange, where there are some good medical practices, medical services specialists, rather than going to Sydney. It should also be extended up to Mudgee. I know Mudgee are looking at using trying to use part of the rail line up there for a footpath. Like, obviously, they're not interested. I don't know any community that would actively want to clear out rail from their community. The opportunities are immense with rail. But I would also like to see that intercity, at least from Candos back through to Wallerawang and Lithgow. We have an ageing population. So and the bus services, that's I can talk about the regularity of those who are outside of Lithgow. But for Portland, Werribee, be able to, or Cullen or Cape, either jump on a train, duck into Lithgow, particularly as you're getting older and you can't drive, would be a boon. I think we need to be getting that in the mix and talking about it. They're looking and talking about the tunnel. They're not going to do the tunnel. And the mayor's right. We're a safe National Party seat. We're not going to get funding. You read the report, and there's a lovely footnote about how they're spending $2 million on a study for Orange to stable trains. Pacific National. I'm sorry. Why the hell would you waste $2 million on a study? Well, I'm sorry, but it's an independent on Orange. It's politics. It's not good governance. It is politics. Yeah, that's all I got. But I would like those items taken up because regardless of noting it, the administration will do a response. I will send it. I would like some of those items taken on board and sent. I think it'd be foolish not to engage because, quite frankly, I cannot see a change in government coming at the next election, either state or federal. That's just the political reality. So we need to be at the table. We need to have ideas there. We need to have the discussion going, and we need to make them aware that we will be one of the first communities to lose coal and thermal power production. Having good transport corridors, rail and road, is critical, but I would go more for the rail. We really need it. Thank you.
Councillor Statham.
Yes, after a lot of conversations with business people, and I mean high-level business people that hire up to 40 to 60 to 80 staff, there's no other reason that I'm saying this is the fact that they're suffering now. Big business is suffering. We need something that's going to be reliable, and we've got to keep lobbying, as far as I'm concerned, with the tunnel. Now, you know, we say, where's the money for it? Where's the money for anything? But in other words, we're not here to talk about politics either. But it seems that Newcastle and Wollongong are the two key places for the development and around the city area. We still have to not let this go. There's been a lot of work gone into these tunnels. There are a lot of people that can put their produce on the rail going to Sydney. Now, where are they going to go if the Bells Line of Road ever was successful? Like, for instance, I was on that committee that Councillor Tyson was talking about in 2012, and every month I'd go and sit around the table and they dilly-dallied about the other road that you're speaking about. It's dead. It's a road. This is the Great Western Highway we're talking about. It's got much more chance of getting money long term than the Bells Line of Road. It's not even a highway. We need a highway to go down near that the new aerodrome. It's going to open up Lithgow. If we had a decent entry to Lithgow both ways, which I've tried to get for a very long time, but no, zero. So your first impressions are your best impressions. But we need to make sure that people have got a choice, and that I would not, as a ratepayer, would never ever vote for the Bells Line of Road.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Councillor Fredericks.
Look, when this white paper was first released out into the public, my one and only comment, which I still stand by, is so no real solution, right? No extra lanes, continued choppy speeds, the highways will be shut down when the fires come through or the snow falls. This is literally just a paper saying we need to look like we're doing something whilst actually not doing anything. And that is what the paper is. There's no even Band-Aid solutions to how many car accidents have we had that shut the mountains down in the last 2 weeks? How many emergency services have had to fly up because of these accidents? Where's the solution to that? Where's the solution for the fires coming through and cutting the Central West off from Sydney? Where's the solutions for when you've got a truck that jackknifes coming around one of the bends too tight? What about the constant congestion going through that mountain randomly every day? This white paper is nothing but absolute balderdash with no real help, solution, or future sight. This is yet again a state government, and I'm going to be very specific here. It doesn't matter if it's Liberal or Labor in power as state government. Central West always gets the raw end of the stick. Always. Even though we grow their food. Even though we make all this stuff that gets sent to Sydney for them to have. Even though all their crap gets taken from the airport out here for us to manufacture. And honestly, I think it's past time that our councils like ours start standing up and start yelling and making ourselves heard. We're here. Suck it up. Start giving us what we need. And if they don't listen, then, well, maybe we just need to start going down to Parliament House and making a scene. Because this white paper is completely unacceptable. It's a complete waste of taxpayers' money. There is absolutely nothing in it. Oh, we know what the problems are. Then fix them. It doesn't take a genius. And if you don't want to build the expressway, find other alternatives. See if there's spots through the Great Western Highway where you can add extra lanes. See if there's things that can be moved off the highway so you can put a proper bloody speed limit zone through there instead of constantly going from 100 to 80 to 60 to 70 to 50 to 60 to 80. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, that varying speed limit all through there, it's probably one of the biggest causes for all these accidents, because you don't know what the speed limit is until you see the sign, and then you've got to double think, did I see that one or was it a different one? Because they change so frequently. It's ridiculous. And honestly, this is a slap in the face to all of us. And if anyone is not absolutely devastated and offended by this lack and this total BS, do you even care?
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Mayor. I've spent a long time on this report. The actual white paper is a body of work as well. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the staff for getting that extension so we can actually come here as a council and provide a comment on it. So I appreciate that. I acknowledge, and I won't reiterate a lot of things that councillors have said, but I'll just pick up on what Councillor Ring said, the importance of rail as a consideration. There's a focus, and I understand why the focus is there on the Great Western Highway. I've driven it for 32 years to go to work every single day. So I've seen all of the changes, the Warramoo Snag, the Woodford Bends, the Wentworth Falls and Bullaborough. The issue that sits there currently is, as Councillor Frederick spoke to, between West Katoomba you have 10 speed changes, and most of them, for a very short period of time, you go to 80. The patch between Medlow Bath and largely Blackheath is now reduced to 60 kilometres. That section of road has been unsafe for a long time. The number of accidents that occurred just to the west of Medlow Bath are significant. The other issues sitting there, there's talk about the historic bridge at Mount Victoria. The rail bridge as you enter Mount Victoria is a prominent stop point. It was basically protected by about 30 centimetres of asphalt, and there was numerous periods there. You'll notice there's been a whole lot of slope stabilisation below it, but it closed regularly, and I can say that from experience because I sat there looking at the closed section. So there are numerous pinch points on that area, as is there the issues between Mount Charles and Barambering just to the east of Mount Tomah. That section is probably arguably one of the most risky sections of road to drive. Anyone that drives home late from the Hawkesbury, gets over Mount Tomah and then enters into Mount Charles, you're in pretty dangerous territory. So there's obvious spots that need resolution. I agree with Councillor Ring. Western Sydney left some of the concept of the Bells Line of road behind. They've closed in some of the corridors. So it's getting up the ascents and descents at both ends. The only one that works is Glenbrook and Lapston. Scenic Hill, Bellbird Hill, and Mount Victoria Pass are all an incredible grade to drag trucks up. So there's all these challenges, and I understand why people are looking to a tunnel. I want to pick up a little bit on what Councillor Ring spoke to. We all talk about facing west for our services and our partnerships through the joint organisations. Health we face to the right because we don't, to the east, because we don't actually give people who don't have cars a pathway to visiting specialists in Orange and Bathurst. Improving that service, and I actually think that multi-modal hub, and if we can put the gateway term out on the curb for the next council collection, if any term annoys me more than that, that's half the problem for Lithgow. It's a turnstile to somewhere else. We need to start talking about Lithgow as a hub, and again, I won't go into detail. Again, Councillor Ring talking about we have road networks into potential manufacture centres like Green Spot. We have opportunities to put the trade out. I don't know why communities would want to derail their community by taking rail out, particularly going north into the Newcastle ports. I think once we look at Lithgow and where it sits strategically with the Castlereagh Highway, the Great Western Highway, the Bellsliner Road, and also the rail network. So I think we've got a significant strategic role to play there. I will leave it at that, but only to say that it's a difficult document to have a discussion about in a council meeting, because I tend to be an opportunities focused person. Yes, I understand the tunnel. I understand what the mayor has said because anyone can join me if they'd like to come for a drive. Sunday afternoon, go to Blackheath and head east. That's the only time I can routinely not get through Blackheath. And West Katoomba coming east, as soon as we have a problem in Medlow Bath, Station Street is untrafficable on the side, so there is only 2 laneways, and then you've got a drinking water catchment sitting on the other side. So it is a problem, but I think there's a pathway there. If we continue to wait for the tunnel to arrive, well...
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further debate? Councillor Goodwin.
Thank you, Matt. The New South Wales Central West Corridors White Paper provides an overview of the strategic regional integrated transport plan. However, in reviewing the document, as part of a question on notice, while the Great Western Highway is referred to multiple times in Marangaroo, there's no indication of any future speed limit changes associated with the Marangaroo Master Plan. Can we be updated on the current status of any advocacy on this matter?
Absolutely. Director Edgecombe.
So, in collaboration with the LEAP team, we met with ministers and their staff on several occasions, advocating against the historic position that Transport for New South Wales had taken, in that any additional intersection works in the Marangaroo precinct required a grade separated interchange as a result of the declared status of that road. They've since reversed that position and are now open to considering all other treatments, including speed reductions and signalisation and the like. Controlled access road, that's the term I was looking for. But this white paper it wasn't intended to be a document that specifically describes interventions like a speed reduction here, there, and in specific locations. It more speaks to the strategies that the government will develop, and the Marangaroo release area, or whatever you want to call it, is specifically referenced in the document as an area that the Transport for New South Wales will focus on in collaboration with Council to address access concerns. So it is referenced, which is a very pleasing result.
Councillor Goodwin, would you like anything further? No? You fine with that? Okay. Any further debate on this matter? Councillor Smith?
I totally agree with the support of the trains going across the mountains, because it's always been an important factor around Lithgow. But also, I'm also a supporter of the Bellsliner Road, because I do believe you get away from all those traffic lights, and you should have a good road going down to the city area, and it should be that way. And whether there is complications, well, maybe there is, but there's probably more if you go down the Great Western Highway. But I think one of the biggest factors here that hasn't actually been mentioned here, there's a lot of big centres west of us. Bathurst, Orange, Dubbo, and you name it. And they're all screaming out for a decent road themselves back down to Sydney. And everybody sees the chaos on Sunday afternoon whenever there's people heading back to Sydney. It hits all them bottlenecks and whatever. And you won't probably ever get away from them bottlenecks unless you probably spend 4 times as much probably trying to do up Great Western Highway than what you probably would start a new freeway. My belief is we should be actually going out and getting the support of all those major towns west of us who are expanding all the time, getting bigger, got heaps of money, more than us, and get them on side. And if we get a bit of clout going, you might get a decent road. Thank you.
Councillor Smith, there's no further debate. Councillor Tarsus, your right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be long. Can I give you an example of the Bellsline Expressway compared to the Great Western Highway? I mean, if you look at the Great Western Highway, 29 sets of traffic lights, it's the same sort of road that you used to have from all the way down the North Coast, all the way down the Hume Highway, all the way down the Pacific Highway. Nothing changed. And when they started to put the freeways in, the towns grew. They had freedom. If you went into the town, you went into the town. Here we have two different examples. That the Great Western Highway is nothing more than it's not a highway. I mean, it's not a freeway. It's absolutely nothing. All those towns have been bypassed with freeways. Coffs Harbour is getting a go over at the moment. The Newcastle Interlink is getting a go over at the moment. They're getting spoilt for choice all the way up and down the south coast, up and down the north coast, part down the south coast to Nowra, and the Hume Highway from Sydney. No sets of traffic lights all the way down to the border. All the towns have been bypassed. I mean, that's the reality. It's not rich to be asking for something that everyone else has. They've got tunnels here, there, and everywhere, all around the eastern suburbs. We've got nothing. We've got nothing from Lapston. Everyone remembers the old days where you used to get to Lapston and come up the hill and all that sort of thing. And then we had the motorway. The motorway ended at Lapston. Nothing's ever come across. It's always been a promise by successive governments, state and federal, that when all the north and south and the Hume was done, that we would concentrate on the east, out west. Nothing's ever happened. It's our turn now, and there's no reason why we can't ask for what we've got. With respect to railways, the reality is that's not going to happen because the transport companies are using trucks. They're not going to put it on the rail and take it here, there, and everywhere. They can get it overnight at less expense by just taking it by truck from A to B, not A, B, C, D, E, and F, to get it into depots and all that sort of thing. So that's never going to happen. So I say to the council, look, I don't think we're in the mood to endorse something when we know we're just endorsing something for the sake of endorsing it. I think it's our role as councillors, and this council that's getting left behind over many, many years, and we need the expressway, we need a better access to Sydney. So does everyone else coming out of Sydney, and as Councillor Money said, to the Central West. The Central West get bogged up going over the hill all the time, going backwards and forwards. So it's not something we need to do. So I think it's appropriate, and the Mayor seconded that we just note the response. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tyson. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Oh, the division has been called. Please raise your hand. All those in favour?
Exactly voting on.
What's in front of you,
Yes.
councillors? Just state them.
Yes,
So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Statham, Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Evangelidis, Councillor Ring, Councillor Smith, Councillor Marnie, Councillor Fredericks, Councillor Tyson, and Councillor Coleman. The matter's been carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on to 2.9, which is Draft Water Services Restriction Policy, which is page 41. I have a recommendation in front of me. Do I have a mover? Is there any motions, councillors? Councillor Marty, you're moving the recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah.
In front of me. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ring, that's great. Councillor Marty, would you like to speak to that, please?
Only briefly, but just noting the importance of what is at the heart of the report is that when we do go out as a council in a tender and we make a decision not to proceed, that we have a process to bring that into the public to see that. I understand that costs increase with the.
Point of order. We're doing. Sorry, Eric. We're doing 2.9.
My apologies.
2.9.
Sorry.
Councillor Marnie, it's the draft. The
That's
council
my
adopts the
fault.
draft water services restriction policy. You okay?
It's the only time I'm ahead of the game, so note it, please, Mayor. Okay, I'll step back and I'll let it go again. Sorry, Mayor.
You've moved it now. You're happy to move it?
Yeah, I'll
You can. So we'll.
Yeah, I'll speak to it.
You're happy to speak to it? Okay. So 2.9, the council adopt the draft water service restriction policy. Off
Okay.
you go.
Okay, I'll be fairly brief on this. Look, I think the pros of it are it does give clear guidelines for minimising misuse and recovering costs, and I accept that. So we got a interesting from a conversation we had earlier on in regard to application of policy, and it does avoid long-term leaks and subsequent leaks. What I would like to ensure, because one of the things I've seen from successive councils when I've sat in council meetings, even before I became a councillor, was policy is not about equity, it's about fairness as well. So we like to be treated equally, but we also like to be treated fairly. So if we do find that there are legitimate reasons, and they have come forward over the years, to ensure that hardship policy is properly applied and that the actions don't appear to be punitive against the person, because we can find someone, and I looked to previous cases where people in older houses with old plumbing infrastructure found themselves with a leak, found themselves with a substantial bill. There was clearly no misuse of the water. That we have that ability to make those judgments. But also and I've looked at the statutory powers and accept what is written there, but essential services need to have a very, very, very good reason to cut them off. So if we cut gas or electricity in winter, we cut water, it's consequential. So we need to make sure that the impact on the individuals is considered in the application of the policy. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Ring?
Yeah, very briefly. It's a policy. It's been a public exhibition. No objections. If we're not happy with the outcome, we can always bring a nom back to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Is there any further debate? You don't need a right of reply, I'm assuming, Councillor Marnie, or would you like one? All right. We'll put that. I'll put the motion to you. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. Thank you. We move on to 2.10, cancellation of tender for Lithgow STP trickling filter demolition. Any motions, Councillor?
I'll move
this
that.
Is what you're moving this one?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll second.
And you're seconding that?
I'd also like to flag a matter arising from this report, please.
Absolutely. Councillor Marnie, you've moved it?
Okay, brief reiteration. If we got the intention to go out and tender, when companies respond to it, there's significant costs in doing that. So I think it's important that when we intend to go out, we have the funds to proceed. If it's discovered that the costs of other projects and this project, as is described here, exceed that, I think it's important that we report back to the council as to why we terminated that process. I again appreciate what I'm seeing is increasingly good or better practice around tendering, so I thank the staff for this report.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Councillor Ring?
I'll just be very brief. Basically, it shows good governance and financial management. I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Any further debate on this matter? Councillor Marnie, you can have your right of reply if you like. Righto. Moving on. Thank you, Councillor Marnie. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. Thank you, councillors.
I have a matter arising.
Yes, Councillor Ring, what would you like to?
I'd like to propose that council's commitment, and this is in the report, the council's commitment to sourcing 100% of electricity from renewable sources and initiatives to decarbonise operations in parallel with New South Wales 2035 emission reductions and net zero are referred to the Finance and Infrastructure Committees for discussion.
Sure. Have you got a seconder? Councillor Marnie's happy to second that. You'd like to speak to that?
As a council, we operate within very limited financial, we operate within very tight financial constraints. We're annually impacted by cost shifting by the state government and the federal. There is a cost to decarbonising and moving to net zero. We need to understand what that cost is moving forward. We need to understand whether or not we can afford it. And if we can't afford it, we need to shift the cost back onto the state and federal governments. They need to fork money up. And regardless of beliefs on any of this, I know councils that have gone out and bought electric trucks, and they're about as useful as something on a bull. They just don't deliver. We need to be careful moving forward that we don't waste money. We don't have money to waste. And we just need to have a better strategy. There is a plan, but we do need a policy on this, and we do need to be careful moving forward and understanding the financial implications. Those implications need to be in the long-term financial plan. And if I may, for you, Mayor Coleman, to Director Browning, has worked on the long-term financial plan incorporated any of these transition costs into the budget?
Director Browning, if you could please.
I'd have to take that on notice.
No, that's fine. I only just thought about the questions. That's all good.
Councillor Marnie?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually think we need to set ourselves some ambitious targets. We've got an issue financially. We've got one of two choices. We decrease costs or we increase income. Now, I'm going to throw something to the Director Browning, and my apologies, this isn't on notice. An idea roughly on our quarterly electrical bill.
Director Browning?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, I know the annual's about 2.1.
Okay. So there's a significant cost. Now, what I'm seeing from Director Trapp and his team is looking at how do we reduce costs. When we look at a large percentage of Australian households, they've chosen rooftop solar. And they've not chosen it necessarily because they think it's the right thing to do for the environment. For many it is, their motivation. But they've done it to reduce their household bills. We have to challenge our staff to continue to look at opportunities to decrease costs. The waste management site and the wastewater site are two of the biggest brown sites in our ownership. Now, I know Newcastle, many years ago, converted one of their landfill sites into a solar farm as a way of generating the energy to run associated activities. I'd like our staff to keep imagining big opportunities rather than be limited in their thinking. So I'll be interested to see where this project goes going forward, because the one thing we can't keep doing is increasing income by going into our ratepayers' pockets to find the money. So if we're not coming forward with solutions, I'd be disappointed. So I appreciate the thinking that's gone in there.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further debate on this matter?
If I could.
Right, a reply,
Look, I do agree with Councillor Marnie. I don't want to stifle staff looking at opportunities moving forward, but the capital expenditure needs to be identified and to be looked at. We need to understand moving forward what the costs are, what the risks are, and whether or not it can be done in 5 years, 10 years, 15 or 20. That's what we need to look at. But we do need to look at reducing costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. Thank you. We move on to 3.1. It's a combined community committee meeting minutes. I've got a recommendation in front of me. What is the will of the council?
I'd like to move an amendment, please, if I may.
Yeah, what would you like to move?
In council's meetings previously, I've been critical of some reports that have come to council for not identifying actions that have been moved in the reports. I believe all summaries coming to council should have any actions or recommendations for actions highlighted in the report. The town report's a good example. So I'd like to add an additional point, and this comes from the minutes, that the establishment of the Community Initiatives Advisory Committee is progress with the development of respective terms of reference inclusive of the identified working group structure with consideration of the Sporting and Recreation Working Group to be discussed further at an upcoming Sports Advisory Committee.
Do you have a seconder?
It's basically a recommendation in the report.
I'm happy to second it.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you'd like to speak to that, Councillor Ring.
Not really. What I want is for these reports to, for the purpose of transparency, to show what has been recommended for action in these committees. Not we note this report or note that action, but if there's a recommendation, it should be there and it should be transparent. That's consistent, I believe, with the current code of meeting practice, and I have a number of amendments to some of these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I just have a question in regards to this particular recommendation. It states that with consideration of the Sporting and Recreation Working Group to be discussed further at the upcoming Sports Advisory Committee. Now, we had a Sports Advisory Committee only recently. Unfortunately, both the chair and the deputy chair of that committee couldn't be there. But I
say, Mayor, because the deputy chair was sitting in a queue on the Great Western Highway after an accident.
Yes, I know that. I'm not having a go, Councillor Marty.
It's relevant to other
and
issues.
What's your excuse?
And I didn't mention the chair or the deputy chair by name, if you noticed. So you gave yourself away. But I just have a question in regards to the working group, because the Sports Advisory Committee isn't actually part of this particular portfolio. I would like the chair and the deputy chair's opinion in regards to how they feel about the Sports Advisory Committee becoming a working group. If I could, please.
Yeah, as the chair of the Sports Advisory Committee, I wouldn't support that. I believe it's a group that needs to be a standout committee by itself. There's a little bit of work to be done on that committee, but I believe that it should be a standout committee on its own.
Councillor Money?
I concur with the chair. I think there's a very specific interest group in there. How we structure our meetings, we can always look at, and whether we can get some more project-based activities. I know there's been a lot of interest and focus on parking plans and lighting for sports facilities. There are some common themes that we probably need to proceed as a group, but I think merging a lot of very varied, because I know a couple of friends are on community development, don't want to listen to me rabbiting on about rugby league. So I don't know. There's room to bring any further mergers. I think it needs to sit as a standalone community sports advisory committee or working group.
Thank you, both Councillor Goodwin and Councillor Money. Councillor Fredericks.
From how Heather explained it, we still have our individual groups and we meet up. It's just one representative from each of those groups then go to the bigger group. So that, because a lot of things were crossing over, so everyone's aware of it, but it's only one representative from each group that goes up to the bigger group and relays it, and then one big report's made. That was my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding as well, but excluding the Sports Advisory Committee and they will work through that with the Sports Advisory Committee. Councillor Statham?
I think that Lithgow is very sporting minded in many different facets of sport. I think the Sports Committee is a standalone committee that council run. So just like it is now, I think that it's been very good, whether it's hockey, football, swimming, athletics. I think it's something that we need to promote and not just put somebody in another meeting for you to explain what goes on in 6 weeks and trying to explain them while they're explaining totally different cultural things or whatever. I think we need to, that's one thing that we need to concentrate on and make sure that the Reg Cowden, I don't even know whether it exists anymore. I know the monetary size does, but the presentation evenings? No, what a shame. So I think, that's my thought. Due to the fact that I have a very sporting background in my family, I think that it's really not good to see that they don't have an opportunity to try in their own town before they go elsewhere.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. I have full faith in Councillor Goodwin and Councillor Marnie in leading that discussion in the Sports Advisory Committee.
Could I ask? Well, I appreciate I've spoken, but
Have you got a question?
Just in light of Councillor Friedrich's explanation, which I have a better understanding of the intent of what was being put forward, that there's a collective working group which I could see some benefits in place management. Tony Luchetti is a dense area of activity, that whole precinct. There may be value in representatives from each of those communities, maybe those committees coming together particularly around place management and better utilisation of the space. So there could potentially be some benefit, but I'm still sitting with Councillor Goodwin in it's a standalone committee, but it may be useful to have representation into a bigger working group.
Now I have full faith in Councillor Goodwin and yourself, Councillor Marnie, in leading the discussions. Councillor Ring, would you like to reply?
The time I've been on council, I think I've been the one sporting.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Tysos would like. I forgot. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question in regards to the Women's Advisory Group. Is there any update on where we are with the women's shed down there at the showground?
I think can we take that on notice, or have you got a response? Oh no, Director Browning's got something here.
Through you, Mayor Coleman. So there's some issues in relation to stormwater that's required. We've identified that we can actually substantially reduce the potential costs involved with that stormwater infrastructure. That work to look at the design is due to commence in the end of March, so a contractor has been engaged. Water New South Wales has also indicated that they're happy for a modification to be made at that stage. That stormwater work needs to happen before we can issue partial occupancy certificates. So at this stage, it will remain as is.
And is there any chance of any other funding being made available? Are we looking at funding it, or the state government? There is an election coming up.
We are looking at, Councillor Tyson, if I could step in, we are pursuing funding at the moment. We're looking at all types of funding, whether it be government funding, whether it be private funding, but we are reviewing, trying to chase funding.
If that's the case, can a report come back to the council at a future meeting?
Absolutely.
So where it is. Thank you. Just for the information of the community. Thank you.
Councillor Ring.
What happens to the Sporting Advisory Committee is up to its members and the chair and deputy chair. It'll come back to council. Council's will, we're a democracy. It'll go forward. I would suggest that the chair and deputy chair meet with Director Elwood and staff and have a preliminary discussion to flesh out the ideas behind it before it's taken to the committee, and then it's presented to the Sports Advisory Committee, and then they vote on it as a group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Against? You're voting against? Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against? Declare it carried. Thank you. 3.2.
Yep, I'd like
Seven
to move.
Valleys Tourism Committee meeting minutes, January 2026.
I'd like to move an amendment again for the same reasons I moved the previous one, if I may, Mayor.
What are you moving?
An additional point 2, that the committee confirms it remains a council committee with less presentation and more dialogue, broader invitations extended to industry across Greater Lithgow, open attendance for wider industry participation.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Who would like to second that? Councillor Evangelides, thank you. Councillor Ring?
No, I'm just bringing it, as I said on the prior meeting, that it needs to be there. This is an action. Maybe this one cuts a bit close to it, but I think that it was relevant to have it there. Thank you.
Councillor Evangelides, would you like to speak to it?
As Councillor Ring said, we discussed it last meeting. It's important that the stakeholders have a good say in what happens, and less time with presentations and more about what the businesses have to say.
Absolutely. Any further debate on this matter? No? I'll put that to you, unless you'd like write a reply, Councillor Ring, but there's nothing to reply
No, thank
to.
you.
Okay, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. 3.3 was moved earlier. Now I have 3.4, Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Ring, what would you like to move?
Additional points. Point 1, and an investigation of council's responsibility for road reserve relocations is sought from council's legal advisors. And 2, council's administration proceed with the Clarence Sands matter.
You're just bringing the recommendations out of the minutes in front of us. Is that
Yes,
what you're
that's
trying
all
to
I'm
do?
doing. I think they should be there. Anything that requires an action should be in the report to support the council.
That's fine. Who would like to second this? Councillor Marnie, Councillor Ring?
No, we just, there's an issue with some relocation of land. We can't really do anything until we get further legal advice. And there was an issue with the Clarence Sands matters. I'm understanding now that EPA are dealing with that matter. So it's not really an issue for council.
Thank you. Councillor Marnie?
Under the new code, are we in a position to get Crown Lands in to advise us about unformed Crown roads? There's multitudes of them across the local government, and some of them act as access points. There's others that are paper drawn on a subdivision across landforms that can't sustain a road. My understanding is there's quite a long wait for people taking an interest in either direct neighbours purchasing them. Obviously, there's not much point purchasing someone else's road reserve that goes nowhere down a cliff. But I'd be interested to get a better understanding of situations that bring about people who may need access to a road reserve with the road reserve being sold off, or situations where pretty much at the will of the department that roads are assigned over to council, and they can be assigned in extremely poor condition. So I'll just ask that. The other one I've just got a question on is the sporting fields and facilities fees and charges review. We did get a report on that. I just want to understand the pathway forward with that from here. Just given that the committee noted the report and the draft Lithgow asset review and pricing policy. Please, thank you. Through you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. My understanding of the new code of meeting practice, and I've got it in front of me here, is that 3.31 briefing sessions must not be held to brief councillors on business listed on the agenda for meetings of council or committee of the council. What you're asking for is training, and that's how I see it. I don't know if the general manager may not agree, but that's how I see it. And plus, that briefing session could be given to the councillors here in council. We could suspend standing orders. We could also have it at the infrastructure committee as well. We invite them to come to that. So, general manager, would you like to just confirm or?
Through you, Mayor, I do agree. I'd probably contact Councillor Marnie just to frame what he's after, so we can put that to Crown Lands. Just to note that Crown Lands senior staff do meet on a regular basis with the executive team and relevant staff, so we do have a good working relationship with Crown Lands.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, you're welcome. Any further debate on this item? Is there need for a right of reply, Councillor Ring?
I would just like to say very briefly that I'd be reluctant to get Crown Lands here because they're just as likely to turn around and say, take the lot. I think we should just have a discussion in the infrastructure committee.
Well, we have options on the table. It's all about options, Councillor Ring. But I'll take that as your right of reply. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. (3.5) Emerging Economy Committee meeting minutes, 4th February 2026. Councillor Ring, what would you like to move?
Sorry, I'm just getting my additional points. Point 2, that the committee establish a working party with all councillors to bring back a position on LEAP to the next emerging economy meeting. And 3, that the committee include LEAP engagement plan in the proposed workshop with the committee.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. You're just bringing the recommendation forward out of the minutes, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Money, you're happy to second that? That's great. Councillor Ring.
Basically, these recommendations come from a report I submitted at the emerging economy meeting. The LEAP documents fixed in a point time. It's based on philosophies of transitioning the economy, which is more about structural change brought on through climate change, the loss of the coal mines, the power stations, and the structural change that is required, a lot of it that's within that document, is at a level beyond our capacity. We can advocate, but we can't effectively change it. I believe that we need to be looking at economic renewal, economic development. These are 2 areas we can have immediate impact. The advocacy elements out of the LEAP document are critical. We need to keep them, we need to pursue them, but they need to be worked through with the Future Jobs and Investment Authority. They have the money. We need to advocate on those strongly and have a good position on them. But we need to be looking at the next 5 years on what we need. We need to have a strong plan going forward. 1.2 million a year out of the SRV. It's not a LEAP budget. It is a transitions management budget. And that covers a broad range of things. LEAP is not a person, it's not a functional unit, it is a document. We need a flexible approach moving as a council. We need to be flexible to changes in social and economic conditions, particularly at the local, state, federal, international level, all impact on us. And environmental. We need to be across it. So the workshop is an opportunity to come together to get an approach moving forward which looks at those 3 approaches. And with that, we can do a bit of a rebrand possibly, and then bring the community and the business community particularly along with us. And I believe we can achieve a hell of a lot more with a 3-pronged approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Marnie?
I won't add any more to it today.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Any further debate on this matter? No? Need for a right of reply? Nope. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. 3.6 Local Transport Forum meeting minutes. I understand this is what used to be called the TAP meeting? Right, okay, good. So, sorry? Oh, we moved that by exception. Thank you. It's been done. Goodness me. Thank you, minute taker. All right. We're now up to 4.1, which is a notice of motion brought forward by Councillor Ring, myself, and Councillor Marnie. I'm happy to move this.
I'll second.
Bear with me. We brought this forward because what we understood to be the establishment of an Academy of STEM excellence wasn't actually what we thought it was going to be. We went into the meeting with the Director of Education and Leadership, and it was explained to us that this is what my take from the meeting was, that it was going to be an administration position that was going to be based in Portland, and the administration position would provide teaching courses to teachers, which would also include teachers outside of our local government area. That's not my understanding of what this was about to be. Now, I believe that we should support our Lithgow High School here, that a program should be at Lithgow High School. I have full faith in the high school principal. He's already got runs on the board, and we should provide support to our children going forward. We need to move them into the jobs of the future, and I believe this is how we do it. Councillor Ring?
No, I agree. Part of the issue for me was we were being asked to put money in to a program that was going to benefit Midwestern Council, Bathurst Council, Oberon Council. No approach had been made to any other council or business for co-contributions. I'm sorry, but I'm not prepared to have our ratepayers subsidise other councils. When I originally supported it, this is one of those issues that I believe is structural in terms of change and needs to be dealt with by the government, not council. But I do support what is occurring at Lithgow High School. I have a lot of respect for the principal. I think he's achieved a lot in the time he's been here. Why I supported it was because we've got kids now that will be ready for apprenticeships and works that will be coming online next year. We need to give them a leg up for the work that is coming. You're going to see significant capital works investments being undertaken from next year. These kids need an opportunity. So I believe what was proposed wasn't consistent with what we had intended. So I believe we should withdraw it and look at the foreshadowed motion. I believe it will give us a better outcome for the youth of this community.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Councillor Marnie, you also signed the rescission motion.
I won't speak to the 2 points the two councillors, the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor, have spoken to. I just wanted to just be clear and possibly through you, Mayor, as a chair. My understanding is the high school program will still make parts of this program available to senior students of other local schools. Am I correct in that understanding? So
I have full faith in the Lithgow High School principal to open it up to other schools. He said that to me himself.
Yep, because it's important that, you know, the rising tide that brings all boats up, they all come up together. So we don't want to have one school which is elevated, and I completely concur with Councillor Ring and your own commentary about the Lithgow High School principal. We're seeing material outcomes and outputs out of the work that he and his staff and his students are doing. So I'm very happy to support the rescission motion, understanding where the foreshadowed motion is going to go.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further debate on the rescission motion? Councillor Frederick?
Well, I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Brigg. At the end of the day, our kids are our worry, not kids and other LGAs. If we can get something like this up and running and it is beneficial and we have the data, other councils can jump on board and do something themselves. At the end of the day, we need to worry about our lot before we start worrying about everyone else's. I know it sounds selfish, but we've only got a little bit of funding there allocated for this, and I believe that we need to use our funding for our kids and our schools before we think of anyone else's.
Thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Any further debate? I need to put the rescission motion first. So if there's no further, and I won't write, and I don't need to write a reply, I'll put the rescission motion to you first. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Now, Councillor Smith, you foreshadowed, Councillor Ring, you foreshadowed the recommendation motion in front of me. Would you like to move that, please?
I would like to move that. Thank you.
I'll second that.
I think the proposal that's been put forward by Lithgow High School is good. It will meet a lot of what we've talked about in the past, a community college. It can morph into what I've talked about in the past of a research facility. It can be the basis for a university hub. There are many things that can come from it. They have done good work up there. It will also lead to greater integration between TAFE, the high school, business and other organisations like the Business Chamber, of bringing together projects that will benefit the community moving forward. And I will declare that I am the president of the Business Chamber. We have significant funding coming forward over the next couple of years, which will allow us to do a lot of training and reskilling within the community. So there's a lot that is happening, and this will help to get that all going and started. So look, I think it's a great way to go.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. The recommendation is pretty clear. It's a formal agreement with the Lithgow High School to deliver Lithgow Net Zero STEM and Community Skills Partnership. Now that tells me that the Lithgow High School will work in conjunction with all of the schools within the district. It will be open up to all of the schools within the district, irrelevant of where they go to school, because it's going to be a community skills partnership and a community college, which will support our kids or our children going forward, because we do need to help them achieve their goals. We do have a power station that's coming to the end of its life. We do have coal mines that will come to their end of their life, and we need to prepare our children, and we need to make sure that we use our public money to support our children, not anybody else's, but our children going forward. Any further debate on this? Councillor Marnie?
The other point I wanted to make was, as far as runs on the board, the work that the Principal Fodi's been doing with accelerated HSCs, I would have given anything to have the opportunity to have done that as a Year 11 student. Instead, I had to wait essentially till I was a Year 15 student, 3 years after I left school, to start my vocational training. I think there's great material outcomes that are happening for our young people, and as these industries do arrive and projects arrive over the horizon, we've got people better placed to maximise those opportunities. So I'm very supportive of Councillor Ring's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Any further debate? Councillor Ring, would you like round up?
No, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We move on to 5.1, which is question or notice from Councillor Tysos, line marking Inch Street. Councillor Tysos, I see that management has responded to your question.
Yes,
would you like any other questions?
I've got no other questions, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tysos. We move on now to 5.2, which is question or notice from Councillor Tysos, again regarding cash management. I see that the management has responded to you. Would you like any further commentary? Nothing further. Thank you, Councillor Tysos. We now move on to 6.1. We have notice of motion, Councillor Evangelides, Golf Club residence renovation. Sorry. Over to you, Councillor Evangelides. Do you have a seconder? I'm happy to second it for the purpose of debate.
Thank you, Matt. Before I get started, can I just ask through you, Mr. Elwood, a question? I believe that the golf club has submitted a business plan. Was there any aspect of the business plan that related to the residents?
I believe that needs to go to Director Browning. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Through Mayor Coleman, it did not. It had identified other projects to be done that would return income, and that has been worked on with and will be tabled at the Finance Committee. Okay, so there was no mention of the residents above. Okay, I'll just read, just for the people at home, what's in the paper. The Lithgow Golf Club have an unrenovated residence on the upper level that is laying dormant in need of renovation. This is a council asset, and I feel it's important that we look for opportunities for income. It's got great views. My dad in the 80s built a building for the then Peelwater Council in return for a rent-free period. It was great. This council, after the rent-free period, got ownership of the building. Great for my dad because he had a lease for, I think it was 5 years. Yeah, so the fact that they didn't mention it in their business plan really disappoints me. When I first saw the place, and apparently it had been empty for years. Now, that's like a $50,000 a year income from that residence for Airbnb, full-time letting, whatever. I won't vote for any increase in our rates in the future, so I'm trying to think of small things that are under our ownership
And the reason it hasn't been renovated is no one's had the money to renovate it. What I'm proposing is you put out a tender. A savvy builder or a businessman will go, okay, I'll renovate that. I'll make money out of the rent-free period. At the end of that period, I'm happy, council's happy, and we move on. I'm just trying to look for opportunities that doesn't cost money. I noticed in the management comments they said they need to engage a suitably qualified consultant to investigate options. This isn't a vacant block of land. This is a residence. I mean, we're not turning into a brothel or a nightclub. I don't want to see money wasted in working out what to do with it. This is a residence, a quote or two from a builder, but that, once again, it should come from the person that's interested in doing the tender. If we had done this 5 years ago, we would now have ownership of it. And yes, so yeah, I'm just trying to see opportunities for us to make money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evangelides. I'd like to acknowledge that the fact that you are always looking for opportunities, that you do think outside the box, and that should be acknowledged. That's what I'd like to say. Is there any further? Yes, Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, I thank Councillor Evangelides for bringing this forward, this notice of motion. It's a thoughtful idea, and I appreciate the intent behind it. However, at this point in time, it's not financially viable for council to commit potentially $500,000 to a project, mainly return of around $50,000 per year. To me, this is a nice-to-have project, not a must-to-have project, especially when we're facing significant financial pressures and have essential services and infrastructure that require priority investment. Councillor Ring and I met with Club President yesterday to inspect the site firsthand. The facility is in considerable disrepair with major internal and external works required. In addition, making the building accessible would involve substantial upgrades, including the installation of a lift, widening doorways, and construction of accessible bathrooms. These are not minor costs and significantly increase the overall financial burden of the proposal. These realities, I can't support the motion at this time. I have a proposed amendment, if accepted by Councillor Evangelides. The Council defer the consideration of this matter pending a report from the General Manager in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice outlining the availability of funds required to implement the recommendation should it be adopted.
Councillor Evangelides, are you happy to accept that amendment? It is actually in the Code of Meeting Practice what he's referring to. So what Councillor Goodwin is referring to is 3.10, and it's in regards to if a motion or a mayor minute does not identify a funding source, the council must defer consideration of the matter pending a report from the General Manager on the availability of funds for implementing the recommendation if adopted. So that is in the new code. So
yeah, I understand that. The funds would be recouped by the first rent. Now, I just want to clarify that I'm not asking council to renovate the property. I'm asking council to do a tender. It's up to someone else to renovate the property. The only cost to council would be doing I don't feel we need a qualified consultant to investigate options. We'd just be engaging someone to do up the tender documents.
So you're not accepting the amendment, Councillor Evangelides? No. So Councillor Goodwin, are you putting that up as an amendment on its own?
Yeah.
I'll second the amendment.
Yes.
You're putting that up as a second. Okay, so you're putting that up. Councillor Ring, you're seconding that?
Yes.
Councillor Goodwin, has the minute taker got that? Can you bring that up or can you send it to the minute taker? Yeah, Councillor Ring. If you're okay, we'll just wait a few seconds. You're right.
I've got a question if you're happy to take that through the...
Yeah, while we wait for the minute taker, I'm happy to take that.
Can the council administration confirm that the responsibility for the building is actually under the lease and has been for 25 years, held by the Lithgow Golf Club Limited?
Director Browning, can you respond to that, please?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, there are certain structural elements that council has responsibility for as the landholder, but yes, the lease denotes the operation of the building under the Lithgow Golf Club.
Well, that's coming up. Councillor Goodwin, would you like to speak to your amendment, please?
So just would like to ask a question. Has the lease been finalised with the golf club for this period?
Director Browning?
Through you, Mayor Coleman, no.
Question again while we've got a delay.
Councillor Tysos?
That lease expired nearly 3 years ago, is that correct?
Director Browning, do you know?
I'd have to take the specifics, but it has been some time and it's been worked on.
While waiting, may I speak to the matter as a seconder for the amendment?
Well, Councillor Goodwin's the mover. He needs to speak first. So, yeah. Goodwin, are you happy to speak to it?
Yeah, Mayor Coleman. I believe that that this is a golf course responsibility, a golf club responsibility, and a council responsibility. I think that we need to get just a ballpark figure of what expenses and where the expenses are going to come from. I totally understand where Councillor Evangelides is coming from in relation to a tender. I don't know if part of that lease forms part of that, allows for a tenderer to come in and take over the top part of the golf club. I believe we need to get a full costing of it and where it would come from if we had to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Ring?
Okay, look, I won't be brief on this one. I'm coming from a background of over 4 decades of experience in heritage management, where I've specialised in adaptive reuse of Thanksgiving and buildings. I've done tenders, I've done leases, licenses. Prior to the Retail Leases Act, I actually prepared leases from scratch. Not a fun job. What was being asked is for the council to identify the cost of making this proposal happen. Now, if you were to go out to tender, you would need to have a set of documents with all the constraints on it, what's required, the standard of works. It's not a case of just saying, we want you to lease it. But before you even get to that stage, council does not have the expertise required to provide the advice needed. There's a fire safety report which is required under the BCA. The Building Codes of Australia, 70% of it roughly is around fire and safety, and this building has significant issues. Disability and general access requirements requires specialist input. Condition report. The floors are damaged, there are a number of issues, and then there's heritage constraints. They're not insurmountable, but a heritage assessment would be costing you $10,000 to $15,000 on the market. Legal advice in relation to leasing part of the building while the rest of the building is done by another one. We need advice on that, on how it's done properly. This is community lands. Are we able to lease community land to a profit-making company? I don't know that we are. I could be wrong. I don't need an answer now. But I do know that there's a plan of management. I had a look at the plan of management. The plan of management will also need to be adapted and modified and put on public exhibition. I'm sure council staff could do that. But we'd also need a scope of works and cost estimates. And if council went down this path, then before going to tender, not only would you want the tender documents prepared, you'd want your heritage impact, your potential DA, your environmental impact statements, everything done. You don't want someone coming in and say, well, you've got to spend $100,000 on planning or $50,000. You want them to know what they're up for and what the rate of return is. I don't know what the market is for accommodation above a golf club. Is there a market? Is there a rental return? I don't know. But I do know that you've got some serious access issues into upstairs. The metal fire escape, for want of a better word, outside isn't safe. It's dangerous. In winter, you'd die on it. Being a council asset, you'd have to have serious consideration about, do you put a lift in for disability access? Because it's council that would carry the risk if council was proposing the work. That then also means the toilet facilities and kitchen must be fit for purpose for disability access. That's extensive cost. I've done that in heritage buildings. So in order to come back with a report, it's going to cost money. I've seen a cost estimate that the club has secured in the past. That's around $270,000. And looking at it, they had $6,000 for electricity. Straight off the bat, that's $14,000 to $20,000 shorter than what it is. It's going to be a separate lease. It's going to require separate power, new power board, completely new wiring. It's going to need a new water meter, new access. These are all costs, and we need to identify them up front. Can you make it viable? That's what the reports say. We don't have the expertise to do it, and we need to have an understanding of what the cost is. And as was stated, under the Code of Meeting Practice now, if we bring forward actions or works that require funding they're not budgeted for, then the council needs to identify the cost, where the cost is coming from, or the general manager has to bring back a report to council on the cost. So I think the best option at the moment is for the general manager and staff to consider what they need and to come back with all the types of actions that are needed and potential cost before we even set off. That's all I've got to say.
Councillor Fredericks and then Councillor Statham.
I was looking over the notes that I had from when we had that information session with the golf club and Mr. Guest. I remember writing down that that was part of their long-term plan, was to renovate up the top, either for staff space or for accommodation so they could expand in their events. This kind of feels like we're trying to pull the rug out from underneath them, but then we also have the other side of it being heritage listed, which means there's a lot more regulations in what can be achieved, what products needs to be used, the availability of those products. Do I feel comfortable turning that into a B&B when Mr. Guest and his workers have fought so hard to keep the golf club in their hands with that as a long-term goal, to have that redone, to make that accommodation, to expand on their own business? No, I don't feel comfortable doing that to them. They have made it clear they want to stay there, that they have got a long-term goal. And if that's something they're willing to do, and they've even admitted that is something that they're willing to do long-term, should we come in on top of that? I personally don't believe we should.
Councillor Statham?
Yes, I've listened to all the debate, and some I agree with, some I don't. I don't know whether the councillors are aware that it was the first home of the Hoskins family in Lithgow, so it has a great deal of history, a great deal of, I think, something for the future. But just if I could get Councillor Evangelistis to answer if you have not or met with all the group of the board.
What are you asking?
Sorry. I'm just asking, has there been a meeting between Councillor Evangelistis and the board and members, so to see where they're thinking, what their future is? Would they be happy for, that's what I want to know, would they be happy to try and get funding or a developer to come in and develop it? Right. Because it's a magnificent old building, as we all know, and got a wonderful golf course, and I could imagine that it would be like a resort if the funding, obviously council at the moment, they're financially, whether they're stable or whether it's going to be sustainable or not. The fact of the matter is we can't ignore, but I think possibly it would have been a good idea perhaps, Councillor, to go to the committee to see if they were interested, because we don't want to lose that golf club, and no matter who owns it, we want that should be a showpiece of Lithgow sport. Talking about doing something with the sporting committee. That's one of the very appealing sporting for golfers. And I think it's a beautifully planned golf course. They're looking at doing some landscaping there. They want to improve it, but obviously they've got to have the money. So I think it would always be better to go to the board to get their approval to do something and try and move forward, even if it takes 10 years.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Any further debate on the amendment? Councillor Evangelides, would you like to debate? Like, you have the right to have your say on the amendment if you wish. The amendment is that Council defer consideration on the matter pending a report from the General Manager in accordance with Section 310 of the Code of Meeting Practice, outlining the availability of funds required to implement the recommendation should it be adopted.
So I'll speak on the amendment. I don't know how anyone plans to do anything without spending a little bit of money for the future. So you're asking me to justify this expenditure of doing up a tender arrangement that will be paid for when the place earns income. I mean, it's just the way business works and planning works. You have to pay. People put money into things that don't go ahead. It's just the way it is. But it's nominal compared to what this could be bringing in $50,000 a year. If it was done 5 years ago, it would be $50,000 a year richer now. So that was just about the amendment. Yep, cool.
All right, I'll put the amendment. Oh, sorry, Councillor Money, you'd like to speak to the amendment?
Yes, please, Mayor. I'm just going to zoom out for a minute because I just want to see this in context of a lot of other financial issues for this council, and I also have a question for the General Manager on private-public partnerships and the OLG's guidelines with that. I'm seeing in the landscape 4 prominent buildings that we appear to have either lost income coming into or there's shortfalls in funding. We've got the Women's Shed, which will create an important asset for the community and in turn council. We've got this building and the Hartley building. We've got the Centrelink building, former Centrelink building, I should say, because we don't have a paying tenant there anymore. And our partnership in the Hoskins Institute / Transformation Hub / Library. We also have vacant, and we've got significant costs to be incurred in all that cluster of buildings. We're still not in receipt of the building asset management plan. We don't have a complete picture of our total building register and the exposures we've got there. We've had some pretty challenging conversations over the last couple of meetings about financial matters for this council. So the first point is, where does this sit in the list? We've got to consider that. Public-private partnerships have been proven to work in local government, but there's significant investment from a third party, and in some cases they hold on to components permanently. My concern is I sort of see this as a high-risk project under the guidelines, because there's a risk that the builder may in fact go broke, handing back a partially and unsafe completed building for council with no dedicated budget to complete. The recovery time of the money for the proponent may be anywhere between 5 and 10 years. And what Councillor Ring is saying is my understanding as well, that there's a series of plans that will need to be submitted, because essentially we're handing over one of the community assets to a third-party private entity to say you can restore this and use this for a period as a commercial venture for yourself. So we just need to make sure we've got that advice in front of us before we make a decision. And I think what Councillor Goodwin's working towards is to provide an environment where that advice can be provided for the council to make an informed decision. So I'm inclined to support Councillor Goodwin's amendment, because I think that gives us an opportunity to do due diligence. I'd like advice on the Office of Local Government's public-private partnership policies. I'd like to know where this sits in the risk profile, and we're not a council that can be exposed to too many financial shocks currently. So in the process of prudent thinking, I'll support Councillor Goulburn's proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. If there's no further debate on the amendment, you don't get right to reply on an amendment, Councillor Goodwin. I thought you were looking at me. Are you going to ask the question? Yep, sure. Happy to help. It's up to you. It's your amendment.
Point of order. I think under the code of meeting practice, it's got to go this far.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand. All those against. The amendment's been carried. It now becomes the motion. You do have right to reply, Councillor Evangelides, if you wish.
Yeah. You've suggested a very complicated path. This is not a complicated path. And maybe this is one of the failings of why councils don't go anywhere with things like this. This is very, very clear and simple. Everything mentioned in the real world, in the outside world, isn't a hurdle, it's just a step. There's a big difference between a hurdle and a step. This will stay empty for the next 15 years. I guarantee you it will. The whole idea is you put that onto someone else. It's up to them. It's up to them to go for everything. It's up to them. They'll only do it if they can do the numbers and think, okay, I'm prepared to take this on. I don't know if that person's out there, but at least as a council, we're sort of saying, well, we don't have the funds to fix this. The golf clubs certainly don't. And it looks like they have no intention, otherwise it would have been their business plan. Let's see who's out there. Maybe there's a savvy operator that will go, now I know the golf club value that residence. They said it'd be fantastic having golf professionals there. I want to see that building thrive. I really like the people at the golf club. But to sit on an asset that's empty for that long, that's just irresponsible and it's neglectful. And it's our asset. That person may not be out there, but at least it'll satisfy me going, okay, well, at least we tried. We tried to find someone else. But if that person is out there, in 5 years' time or 8 years or whatever it is, we could have a beautifully restored, and it's an interior. There's not many interiors in New South Wales that are heritage listed. I can guarantee you the interior of that is not heritage listed. You'll get a few banks in the city, maybe, and we're not talking about much else, but that all falls to the person that's willing to take it forward. Now, if my dad had all those hurdles, the council absolutely loved the idea. Hang on, you're going to build us a building for nothing? We don't have to pay a cent. Then it went back to the council. This is very, very simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evangelides. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. We move on to business of great urgency. Councillor Tysos.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I understand that the top end of Main Street is going to be closed for 4 days. Has that I think will occur very shortly, or I'm understanding it will occur. Is there any set date when it's going to happen yet?
Is that your business of great urgency?
Yes, it's urgent.
You're not able to bring it to the next meeting, Councillor Tysos?
Well, I understand it's in the next it's either this week or next week.
We can take it on notice, but business of great urgency has changed in the code of meeting practice. You'll need to move a motion stating that it's urgent. The council needs to agree that it's urgent.
I'll move a motion that it is urgent because they're going to close the top end of Main Street for 4 days, and I think we need to get that out there as soon as we can so that everybody can be advised, because there'll be parents and everybody that will have to make other arrangements.
Okay, so you're moving that. So is everybody in favour that that's urgent? No? So I don't believe that it's urgent. I think that can be done by an email. But so is it urgent? Councillors, up to you. It's not up to me. Okay. All those in favour? No? Against? It's lost. It's not urgent. It's not been determined urgent by the council or myself. So and an email can be sent. If there's no further urgent business, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.